Hi, greetings. I'm Mike, and I'm just going to give a quick overview of a workshop that I was involved with at NHL Stenden campus in Meppel in early January 2022. This was a great opportunity, and I think the kids, the university students, got a lot out of it, judging from the feedback we got and also from their performance during it. Basically, the idea was looking at trying to kind of dovetail and incorporate a number of different concepts involved in education, particularly from a teacher's point of view or from teachers in training, with the core of it being trying to implement a STEAM approach when we're looking at science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And along with that, we looked at standard based mindset. I think a lot of students understand the concepts, but to see it on a practical basis is really helpful for them, as well as understanding by design and backward by design, and ABAR, anti bias and anti racism, to try to incorporate those kind of concepts in with what they're doing. So, really, it was a practical based approach that we looked at. And it wasn't so much looking at STEAM as opposed to STEM without the arts included, but to show how the two of them really can be married together. What what we did at the beginning, and I think it's important anytime a teacher is working with students, as we try to kind of hook them with the visuals, and so that it generated some interest, and they could see the kind of stuff that they were going to be working with, and the kind of approaches they could take as we looked at this combination between science and arts, particularly between chemistry and painting. So I gave them some examples of my work here and the kind of stuff that I've been working on. But then really we talked about those seven areas. I gave them a little bit about my background and the idea of what project-based learning is, particularly in visual arts. And then again, we went over standard-based mindset, STEAM and STEM, backward by design, and then the ABAR aspect. And then how would you actually implement a program like this? The visual arts standards we went over because that's my background, and it's also kind of the approach we took as a starting point for the project, and the idea that whatever the content area is that you're working with students, it's these five visual arts standards generally that are really important to kind of focus on and to have as part of your mindset. So what we did was we took both science and visual arts, and we looked first of all at their standards, the general standards that many schools have, and decided to target two standards from science and two essential questions that you want the students to be able to answer or at least explore by the time they're finished with the unit or the project. So we did that with science, and we also did that with visual arts. Then the idea of this marriage between STEM and STEAM is really the idea behind a STEAM project, which is something we're trying to push for because there are a lot of schools that are still with the mindset that the core academic subject areas of STEM are more important than the general overall inclusion of other non-core academic classes. But people who've been involved with STEAM projects really see the benefit on so many levels of dovetailing and incorporating the arts into it. So the idea and how to do that is that you take standards from both areas, from the sciences or from the STEM areas, and then also from the arts areas, and you use those standards from both areas to look at essential questions. And those essential questions could be from one or either of the subject areas, or they could be from both of them. So in this case, this is what we did. We took two specific ones from science and two specific ones from visual arts in terms of the standards. And then we looked at two essential questions from chemistry and two essential questions from painting. And from there, what we did was we then designed what the project would be. And that's the whole concept of backward by design and understand by design, so that rather than deciding ahead of time, all right, this is the project that we're going to be working on, you look at what it is you want the students to learn at the end, and then how can you reach that goal for them to attain that learning by doing what kinds of projects. And so it's that idea of working it backwards and deciding at the end what's the actual activity going to be. The whole concept also of ABAR, anti-bias, anti-racism, inclusion, and representation are really paramount recently in the world. And so the idea is to try to design projects that don't take that kind of concept as an add-on, but rather it incorporates it into the activity of what the students are doing. So I gave them a couple of examples of my work of how we do that, and encourage them to also look at those areas and think about them as they were even just developing this little project that we're working on, but also for later on when they're teachers in the classroom, to always have that kind of in the back of their mind. So how can we do this kind of thing? And then, of course, we looked at the chemistry side of it. The whole idea of collaborating across departments within a school, within staff members. Part of my preparation for this was doing some collaboration with chemistry teachers at the American School of Madrid. So we talked about the chemical side of it, both for trying to oxidize steel and corrode ammonia, and the different types of household chemicals that were used. And then as the students were working on their individual projects, I also worked on a large project as well. And so they could see from a very practical basis what kind of procedure I was going through, and that helped to sort of model for them the kind of things that they could be working on. They came up with some beautiful, beautiful work at the end, and some of it very, very touching and emotional. And you could really feel the excitement that they had as they started to see the chemical processes guiding the artwork that they were wanting to do as they were going through. This particular piece I thought was very emotional. This student's grandfather had passed away, and so she made this gift for her grandmother as I think it was an anniversary gift. And so it's a profile of both of her grandparents, but obviously the grandfather is no longer alive, and so she decided, excuse me, to incorporate that kind of personal touch within her project. Again, here exactly the kind of thing we were looking at and trying to encourage of how do you include ABAR and anti-bias, anti-racism into any kind of work that you're doing. And at first, it seems to be just a fist in the middle, but the more you look, you realize in all the rusted and oxidized areas in the lower part, there's different figures and faces and bodies, really, really subtle. And this, I thought this was stunning because it's exactly what we try to do in art, and also when we're looking at combining things with other subject areas, is let both of these areas have input in what you're doing. So this young man determined to try to do this transition and let the chemicals speak to him as he was deciding what the final image was going to be. And so he kind of came at it from both areas, and created this beautiful, beautiful piece of artwork. But I think more than the visuals, really, the key to all of this was what the students got out of it. And just taking a look at three different write-ups that some of the students did, all of them talk about the same kind of concept that really hit them. And it's this idea about that they enjoyed the learning about how to integrate various subjects into one project. So you can see at the bottom of this little narrative here, that's what the students talking about. This person as well said that the workshop taught them how chemistry is involved in everyday lives, but also how it can be integrated to other subjects. So again, it's this idea of STEAM, of doing this cross subject area integration and collaboration. And this one I thought was excellent. In that she said this project compares to nothing she had ever done before, and about the learning process of rusting steel and copper. And then it was, for her, it was amazing to see how interconnected science and art can be, which is exactly what we wanted to get out of this workshop. So even just reading that one sentence from this one student, for me, made the whole workshop worthwhile, because it showed me that the message got through, and these are all going to be future teachers. And the hope is that as they move on in their careers, they start to do this as just an automatic part of their planning. That, oh, of course, we're going to look at cross curricular, we're going to try to integrate as many different subject areas as we can, and we just have to be creative, and that's a way we can do that. So that's a general overview of the workshop. It was an excellent opportunity, I think, for myself and also for the students, and very successful.